Hello, I'm Adam Pacitti from Cultaholic.com, and let's take a look at what happened last night on SmackDown Live from the KFC Yum Center in Louisville, Kentucky. We kick things off with The Miz and Miz TV. He says that he is the A-lister and that SmackDown is the A-show once again. And I think given the recent roster acquisitions for SmackDown, he might be right. He says that one thing, however, is missing, and that is a title. He is going to regain the Intercontinental title this Friday in Saudi Arabia at the Greatest Royal Rumble. His guest for Miz TV tonight is Daniel Bryan, except it's not. It's Big Cass. No. Cass comes out and runs down Daniel Bryan, specifically targeting his size. He says that when he was growing up, he was short until he decided one day to grow and be big and became Big Cass. I didn't quite get that, but I can identify that. Until I was about 3 years old, I was actually under 2 foot tall, so relatable content there from Big Cass. Cass says that he's tall, educated, good looking, and that makes him a star. That makes Cass money. I'm not sure about that. He says that he won't be living in Bryan's shadow for much longer. He's going to send Bryan back to where Bryan belongs, on the shelf, beaten and retired. You bastard. The thing about this promo is the words coming out of Cass's mouth weren't bad. It's an effective idea to play up the idea that he wants to retire Bryan, especially as Bryan has just made his return, but there's something about Cass that I just really struggled to invest in. As I say, what he was saying was good, but it just doesn't sound right coming out of Cass's mouth. It's as if Cass doesn't believe a word that he's saying. Go and watch it back. Cass's eyes are darting around as he's delivering some of the most important lines of the promo. He just doesn't look comfortable. The next thing we see is Daniel Bryan laid out backstage. He's been attacked. Who could it be? Is it Jack the Jobber making his main roster debut? No, it's Cass, obviously. I guess with just a week and a half until Backlash, they needed a way to turn up the heat on this feud, and a backstage attack is a clever way to do so. It puts Daniel Bryan in the underdog position, which he's so absolutely brilliant at, and I guess it's just I didn't want to see Big Cass versus Daniel Bryan. But if this gets us to Daniel Bryan versus The Miz in a month or so's time, then fine. Back to ringside, and the Iconics, Billie Kay and Peyton Royce, are in the ring. They're talking about how fantastic they look on the big screen. They run down Asuka, they run down Becky Lynch, and I really like these two. I think I found them so unlikable, so frustrating to watch. They were really, really annoying. And I don't know if week on week this is going to evolve into change the channel heat, but they were good. They were very good at what they did here. They were, just annoying. Really bothersome to what bothersome. They were dicks. This turns into a pretty solid tag match between Asuka and Becky Lynch versus the Iconics, and the Iconics pick up the win with some vintage heel tactics as Peyton Royce uses the ropes as leverage to get the pinfall on Becky Lynch. Iconics certainly needed this win, I think, after Billie Kay's loss to Charlotte last week, which I found kind of confusing just because they'd just come to SmackDown and they could have put either of the Iconics against somebody that they could have picked up a win on, but they got the win here, and I guess the thing to note is that it doesn't look like they're going to start rebuilding Asuka's streak, which is good. Obviously, Asuka didn't actually, she wasn't pinned herself, but she was part of the losing team, and I think this is a good thing because Asuka is better than needing the streak as a device to further her character. She's so good. And yeah, I think this was good. I think this worked really well. Next up, AJ Styles is backstage and sets up a match with Rusev Day and Shinsuke Nakamura, who of course has been hitting him in the cock quite a lot recently. But who will AJ's partners be? Well, they're too sweet. It's the Good Brothers, Gallows and Anderson, and this is brilliant. They're finally doing something with Gallows and Anderson. They were severely underutilized on Raw, and now they're in the SmackDown main event. More of this, please. We then get an Andrade Cien Almas vignette, and he is coming soon to the blue brand. It doesn't say how soon. Please tell us. Please, because I'm an impatient man and I want them now. Please. Sooner rather than later. It's okay, good things come to those who wait, but hurry the bloody hell up. Backstage, and Naomi promises not to get involved with Jimmy's match against Rowan, which of course means that she gets involved with Jimmy's match against Rowan. I like this match, and although it almost certainly means that the Usos are getting squashed this Friday in Saudi Arabia, it was at least different to the squash matches we've been seeing with the Bludgeon Brothers. I guess mostly because Rowan actually lost. Naomi caused the distraction by making her entrance, dancing, don't know what that is, and then sliding down the ramp, which allowed Jay to superkick Harper, and then Jimmy rolled up Rowan to get the pinfall. A quick, cheap win, and I don't know how unfitting it is for the Bludgeon Brothers to get distracted by dancing, but sure, you know, we all feel the glow sometimes, and this is fine. As I say, it almost definitely means with Jimmy and Jay coming out on top this week that they're losing in Saudi Arabia at the Greatest Royal Rumble, but I think we all kind of knew that anyway. After the break, and Carmella is in the ring, she's still celebrating her successful Money in the Bank cash-in, and she wants the fans to celebrate with her. Can you blame her? So she's going to play her Melibration video package once again. She does so, but despite her very clear instructions, the fans don't stand up and they don't cheer for her, so you know what? She's going to play it again. I like this. I think a good heel should never give the crowd what they want, and that's exactly what was happening here. I remember when JBL was champion, he used to go to house shows and he would pull a chair from under the ring, set it up right in the center of the ring, and he would sit there and he wouldn't talk. He wouldn't leave, he wouldn't do anything until the crowd was silent, which of course they never would be because they were getting more and more frustrated. And it sort of reminded me of that. You know, she was purposely trying to upset the fans with some really good classic heel work. Of course, unlike house shows, it was on TV and you can't just play the video package 50 times, which would have been brilliant. I'm all for that. Charlotte, of course, interrupted the second playing of the Melibration video. She came out, she signed the contract and then tipped the table, laid out Carmella, setting up their match at Backlash, not Greatest Royal Rumble. It's confusing, isn't it, this building to two different shows thing? Next up is Shelton Benjamin versus Randy Orton, and to cut a long story short, Shelton Benjamin won. This was a fun match, but for me, I'm actually just more excited to see Shelton Benjamin featured prominently on weekly TV. The guy can absolutely still go, and I think a good mid-card program is exactly what he needs, but more importantly, exactly what he deserves. The ending was screwy, with Sunil Singh emerging from the crowd and attacking Jeff Hardy, which eventually allowed Shelton Benjamin to pick up a cheap win, but it did its job. It furthers the program with Jeff and Jinder leading into the Greatest Royal Rumble, and I think it's pretty realistic to expect that we'll get a fatal four-way at Backlash, which I'm all for, as long as Randy doesn't win. Anyway, backstage, and Renee Young is catching up with a beaten-up Daniel Bryan, but he says he's fine. He's got through worse than being attacked by a really tall bloke without any charisma. My words, not his. He'll be fine for the Greatest Royal Rumble, and he'll be fine for Backlash. A match is set up here. Big Cass versus Daniel Bryan at Backlash. Cool. A few more backstage segments here. Samoa Joe was fantastic, as always. For my money, the best promo guy on SmackDown. I think he's that good. And Sanity, a vignette appeared on screen, and they're coming soon too. Coming soon. Doesn't say how long they'll be. Throw me a pissing bone, Vince. Main event time as we see AJ and Gallows and Anderson versus Shinsuke Nakamura and Rusev Day. And match aside, Shinsuke Nakamura's got a really, really good new theme. I know a lot of people don't like it, but I think it's brilliant, and that's for one simple reason. because I can't sing along with it anymore. And unless you speak fluent Japanese, nor can you, which is a really good thing, because a heel shouldn't be serenaded in a way that comes across as supportive when they're on their way to the ring. So this is great. The match itself was fine, but the ending was really strong, with Shinsuke Nakamura hitting a Kinshasa on Gallows to pick up the win, followed by a vintage low blow on AJ Styles. That's 3-0, the greatest streak in professional wrestling today. A man getting hit in the cock. Finally, a Kinshasa for Anderson as AJ Styles looks on helplessly, and SmackDown goes off the air with Shinsuke Nakamura very much on top. I think this was a good episode of SmackDown. They've still got this really difficult... They're in this tough position where they're trying to build to 2 pay-per-views at once. It's unusual, but I think they did a pretty solid job of doing so. I just don't like Big Cass. Thanks for watching this rundown. I've been Adam Pacitti from Cultaholic.com. You can follow me on Twitter here. If you enjoy what we do here at Cultaholic, you can pledge to our Patreon. That's patreon.com/Cultaholic. And most importantly, don't forget to hit subscribe and join us.